Good afternoon, guests, fellow Teachers Pension Plan members. The BCTF appointed trustees are pleased to report to you today. A brief overview of where we are going today. I will be doing the first part, and Linda will be concluding with the pension basics and pension plan design. First, the current status of the teacher's pension plan. The bars show the annual returns. The dotted line is the 5-year annualized returns, called the smooth returns. This is all good news. This is good news because investment returns pay for 80% of our pension. 2014 is a valuation year. With these returns, I am predicting that there will be no contribution increase at the end of this valuation. That is good news because this is the first time since joint trusteeship that a valuation has not required a contribution increase. Net assets available for benefits. Net assets have grown to $22.4 billion since at December 31st. The bottom part is the basic account that pays our basic pensions, and the top dark blue part is the balance of the IAA, the inflation adjustment account, from which indexing is paid. By February 28th of this year, the value of the plan had gone to over $23 billion. These returns and fund growth do not happen by accident or by luck. Trustees spend lots of time and careful consideration on the asset allocation and investment policy of the plan. Should we increase equities and reduce bonds? Should we increase real estate or infrastructure? Should we decrease Canadian holdings and increase global holdings? Those are the kinds of decisions that the trustees make. That investment policy, then, is given to BCIMC, the investment manager. And they spend lots of time implementing that policy, diversifying our investments, selecting specific investments that meet our asset allocation, and implementing the rest of the board's policy. Our pension plan is only 1/4 of the assets that BCIMC manages. Their assets under management are over $125 billion. It is said that you cannot know where you are going until you understand where you have come from. This applies to our look at the teacher's pension plan and its possible redesign. So, some history. In this history, notice the contributions and the structure of the benefits and their changes over time. January the 3rd, 1919, a special general meeting of the BCTF passed a motion calling on the government to establish a pension plan for teachers modeled on the Ontario one. 10 years later, in 1929, the first Teachers Pension Plan Act was established. The government enacted the legislation that set up the Teachers Pension Plan. In that first plan, the government contributions were less than the employee contribution, but what was unique about this plan and has existed since that plan is that the government always contributed to the pension plan. This did not happen in the rest of Canada. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the Atlantic provinces' pension plans are in trouble because the government never put money into the pension plan. We in BC were unique. Thank you to the government for that. This is the wrong AGM to say that at. Pensions established in 1929 were paid $25 annually for each year of service, regardless of what your salary was, regardless of what your contribution to the pension plan was. The benefit was the same to all retirees. But this plan could not escape from the basic fundamental formula of economics: contributions plus investment returns must equal the pension obligations. Because the plan was underfunded, contributions were too low or benefits too high, the plan failed, and in 1940, the Ministry of Finance assumed the liabilities for that pension plan, and pensions were reduced by 1/3. 1941, a new Teachers' Pension Plan Act, the second new Pension Plan Act. Yes, you guessed it, lower benefits, higher contributions equals better funding. 1961, the BCTF had lobbied the government for a number of years for a new pension formula. Contributions were again increased, and benefits were increased, and a completely new pension formula introduced. The new pension formula: highest average salary times years of service times a percentage of annual salary. So the first time there is a direct link between the contributions made and the pensions that would be received. The same formula, or the same type of formula, that we use today in our pension plan. In 1961, the formula was 1% accrual rate for each year of service prior to 1960, and 1.5% for each year of service after 1960. Now in the pension plan, salary matters. 1966, another monumental change in the pension plan, precipitated by the introduction of the Canada Pension Plan. The Canada Pension Plan provided retirement benefits to all employees that were employed and contributed to the plan. The Teachers' Pension Plan provided retirement income for all teachers that were members of the pension plan. At the time, the government owned the pension plan. That is, it was a statutory plan, and they had the unilateral right to change the pension plan. It was assumed that teachers would be saving too much for retirement to have two pension plans. Consequently, the decision was made to reduce the teachers' pension plan and integrate the benefits with the Canada Pension Plan. This introduced two new concepts in our benefits: the year's maximum pensionable earnings. That comes from the Canada Pension Plan because the Canada Pension Plan has a limit on how much you can contribute or how much salary is eligible for contributions to the pension plan. So in the Teachers' Pension Plan, we now had two benefit calculations, one for the formula, one for under the YMPE and one for over the YMPE. And that affected both contributions under and over, and the benefits that were under and over. The second concept that was introduced at this time was the bridge benefit. Canada Pension Plan didn't allow retirement till age 65, but at this time, teachers could retire at age 60 from the Teachers' Pension Plan. So in order to bridge those teachers from age of retirement to age 65, a little bonus from the Teachers' Pension Plan was added, and that was called the bridge benefit. And that still exists in our pension plan today. 1971 was the first province-wide strike. Pensions was the main issue. Benefits had been increased for actives. So the accrual rate was increased, but there was no change to the existing pensions. Active teachers and retired teachers worked together to try to change that. but the government would not listen. Consequently, the BCTF organized a one-day strike in 1971. I must also mention that this wasn't the only source of friction between the government and the BCTF way back in 1971. There were other education funding issues. This resulted in the BCTF becoming active in the 1972 election, and most of you know what happened in that election. 1974 to 1979 saw the introduction of guaranteed indexing in our pension plan, a very important benefit as teachers are living longer and do live longer than the average population. Contributions were increased to partially pay for that, but the indexing was guaranteed. The early retirement reduction factor, that is, the amount that your pension is reduced if you retire before age 65 in the old plan, or that was changed to age 60 in this time period, and the reduction was reduced to 5% from 6%. (1980), guaranteed indexing was terminated. That was a short experiment on guaranteed indexing. The government again unilaterally changed the plan because it was their plan and they changed the legislation. They introduced the concept of the inflation adjustment account to pay for indexing if that fund was adequate to cover the cost of indexing. Indexing went from a guaranteed benefit to a contingent benefit. This is the structure that we currently use in our pension plan. Thankfully, the inflation adjustment account has grown to one that is now fairly stable and can afford a pretty good level of indexing. 2001, probably the most important date in the teacher's pension plan. The government offered to move the pension plan from a government-sponsored statutory plan to a jointly managed pension plan, governed by a joint trust agreement and a set of pension plan rules. Teachers voted and approved this agreement, and contributions were increased by 1%. 1% for employee contributions went into the inflation adjustment account to stabilize indexing, and the government increase of 1% went to the basic account to help reduce the unfunded liability. In summary, changes in the teacher's pension plan have been frequent and were unilateral until 2001. Two major changes occurred to the plan, one in 1961 when there was a basic change in the pension formula from dollars per year to a % of salary per year of service, and in 1966 when the plan was integrated with Canada Pension Plan. Since 2001, there have been no changes to pension benefits, but there have been minor changes and improvements to the purchase of service rules. The contribution increases since 2001 have been necessitated by unfunded liabilities that occurred because of poor investment returns. Thank you, and Linda will review some of the pension plan basics and what issues and factors can be changed in the future and the impact those could have on the plan.